Can you give me any example of Sanskritization happening in today's India?
What if every human on earth speaks the same language?
Any 2-3 major points that you got from that book?
What are the implications of this war for India's economy?
Very important and prominent strategy in the game of chess is Queen's Gambit.
Yes, sir.
What is Queen's Gambit?
May I come in?
Yes, come in.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Please be
Morning, sir.
seated.
Thank you, sir.
Please give a brief introduction about yourself.
So my name is Tania Mishra. I come from Kanpur, Uttar Pradesh. I've done my graduation in BSc Physics Honours from Amity University. I graduated in the year 2020 and since then I've been preparing. If I talk about my hobbies, I like to read books and I like to play chess.
You are quite passionate about joining the Indian Foreign Service.
Yes, sir.
What is the role of a Foreign Service officer?
So, Foreign Service Officer has the primary role of ensuring the diplomatic relation of a country with other nations. They also have certain consular services providing to those people who are resident in a foreign country and visa services and other. And they also ensure the security and other issues which are related to the people living in a particular nation.
And how do you suppose you get selected in the Foreign Service? How would you go about interacting with Indian diaspora living abroad?
So there are certain festivals of our country which can be celebrated with the diaspora. Along with that, we can also have certain schemes for them. For example, the migrants that are there in Arab nation, they often face certain discriminatory practices. So we can help them in that. And also, as seen in the case of Qatar, that we also offered legal support to the people who suffered sanctions in that region.
Have you heard about Operation Ajay?
Yes, sir.
What is this operation?
So, Operation Ajay was related to bringing back the people from Israel with the war that is going on. So, bringing back our nations from.
Bring back a nation. You have studied sociology also.
Yes, sir.
Tell us three names of Indian sociologists.
So, G.S. Ghurye, M.N. Srinivas, and Yogendra Singh.
Yogendra Singh. M.N. Srinivas, his theory of Sanskritization.
Yes, sir.
Do you think it's still relevant today?
Yes, sir. I do believe that it is relevant because caste is still a reality in the Indian society. And even though after the caste reservation that has been allowed, we see that the lower castes are not much employing that. But in the rural areas, if we see, people do give up, for example,
Can
they
you
give
give
up.
me any example of Sanskritization happening in today's India?
So, for example, people give up non-veg food in order to be like the upper caste of a region, or we can see the Jats which are there in Haryana, they are prominent. So, that is an example of Sanskritization.
This concept is applicable to tribals also.
Sir, M.N. Srinivas did give the concept that Sanskritization can be employed to tribals also. The reason that there is a degree of integration which differentiates them. And since the tribals are coming into the mainstream, so they do employ certain methods.
What was the criticism of Professor Yogendra Singh against the concept of Sanskritization?
Sorry, sir.
You are not aware. What do you mean by patriarchy?
So, patriarchy, according to a sociologist Sylvia, is that it is a system in which.
What is your definition of patriarchy?
So, I believe patriarchy means when the male dominates or male try to make definitions on certain counts on which a female should stand on those parameters. So the parameters are set by a male-dominated society, and a female is supposed to subject herself to that.
Do you think everything is bad in patriarchy?
So I cannot say entirely, but there are certain disadvantages. It does act as a roadblock for the women.
Okay. What do you mean by feminism?
So feminism means it is the concept of allowing female social, political, economic justice in the social sphere.
Do you think all girls should be feminists?
Yes, sir, I do believe, in fact, not girls, but I believe boys should also be feminists.
Feminist, wonderful. One last question. what do you mean by your, what do you call that? There is an emotional connect between father and daughter. So how do you, there is a specific word pointing that. Do you have any idea about that?
Sorry, sir.
What do you mean by glass ceiling?
So glass ceiling, it is an effect in the society which is said to explain that there is a glass ceiling beyond which a female cannot go, or a particular social group cannot go. So that is a socially imposed ceiling on the limitation that is there to achieve a particular goal.
Is it a psychological concept or a social concept?
So I believe it is a social concept because it is both in certain counts. First, psychological, because like for example, there is a poor girl who is living in a village. When she does not have the things with her or the facilities are not available, then that becomes a psychological glass ceiling. Whereas previously we did not allow women to join the forces, so that was a social glass ceiling in that manner.
And what is a glass cliff?
So sorry,
Glass cliff.
sir, glass cliff. So I'm not aware of the term.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Tania, how are you doing?
So I'm good.
You okay, Tania? Tell me one thing, if there is a perfect empathy in the society at large, everyone, how do you think society will be then?
So if there is perfect empathy in the society, I believe the society would be largely quite equal, both in terms of social and economic aspects. There would be a wider equality in the society.
Negative aspect?
So I believe for the social systems to work, there is a particular stratification that is needed in the society, and that goes against the concept of perfect empathy. For example, if we want the government to work, certain people would be excluded from a particular scheme, so to say. So that might seem like a contradiction of perfect empathy.
What if every human on earth speaks the same language?
So I do not think that should be a term, because the language diversity, because language gives a person identity, and as we have language diversity, that also allows us to explore certain cultures, certain identities. Everybody has a different identity. So
You're from physics background, I believe.
yes, sir.
Have you heard about time machine?
Yes, sir.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically.
If in case you are supposed to be sitting in a time machine, what will be the date in the back you will like to register yourself and go? Whom will you meet and why, and what talks will happen?
So I would try to go and meet my mother, and I would tell her about all the things that I am doing right now, how everybody around is, and how the society, and what all things I have done, and how strong I am after her. So these things I would talk to her.
One last question to you. You have been appearing in defense services
Yes, sir.
pretty long time. Your father is also from BSF.
Yes, sir.
And somehow the other you wanted to go for defense forces. Why did you choose IPS as third?
So the reason is that I always wanted to join the civil service, but I also had it in the back of my mind that I want to serve the nation like my father. And since it is an arduous journey of civil service, and after failing in the initial 2 attempts, I thought that I should not compromise on my goal of serving the nation at least. So I decided to go for the defense service. Last year I was also selected as an assistant commandant in CAPF. So at least I fulfilled my one dream, and then I'm fully dedicated to focusing on my primary vision of being a civil servant.
Why not? Why IPS as a third choice then?
So I believe my personal capabilities are better suited for the diplomatic corps, and since I believe that I have an interest in international relations also, therefore I chose give primacy to that.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Tania,
Yes, sir.
what it means?
So Tania is a word that comes from German language, and it does not specifically has a meaning, but it is related to a fairy princess. It was also used in one of Shakespeare's play.
Okay. So do you think that you are?
So my family thinks that, and so I do also.
Yes, very good. And you said that you like to read books.
Yes, sir.
So what kind of books you read?
Sir, I read both fiction and non-fiction.
Fiction, non-fiction. The last book you have read?
Sir, the last book I read was The India Way by S. Jaishankar.
Yes. So it's a non-fiction.
Yes, sir.
Any 2-3 major points that you got from that book?
So there were 3 major points that I found in the book. The first was that the External Affairs Minister, he has focused on the idea that India needs to focus on its national interest. In the international relation, as we can see in the case of Israel also, in the case of Russia also, we focused on our national interest. So that was one lesson. Secondly, he said that because there is a greater resentment against China, so we should capitalize on that. Because people are looking at an alternative to China. For example, China plus 1 is there. So India has economic heft in that. And so third, he said that there are going to be contradictions. For example, we are employed in SCO and we are also in Quad. So there are going to be contradictions, but the world would be receptive to it because India is an emerging power and they would be receptive to that idea. So we should also accept the contradictions that are there.
Okay. You have been born in Eastern UP.
Yes, sir.
And your graduation is in Western UP.
Yes, sir.
So what are the major difference in these two parts of UP?
So Western UP, because of it being located in the NCR region and proximity to Delhi, it has largely an urban based population, and both in the economic terms as well as the way the society is there, it is an open society, and we also see a large formal workforce there. IT sector is booming in that region. Whereas in Eastern UP, from where I come, people are still focused on agriculture, and the per capita income in the region is also not very high. And of recent, we are seeing reforms, but socially also there is a stronghold of tradition in the region.
So what are the major problems in Eastern UP, specifically from the girls' point of view, which is holding the socio-economic development?
Sir, in the region, I would say primarily because the society is agricultural based. So that also acts as a roadblock for the women, because the inheritance traditionally that is there, it does not grant certain rights to the women, even though we have laws against that. So secondly, because there are not many employment avenues in the region, a female often finds herself being held back when it comes to education, because family gives primacy to a male child. So these are the major reasons.
Male child in India, sex ratio is distorted, and economic survey has coined a specific term to this distorted child sex ratio. Can you tell me that term?
I'm sorry, sir, I'm not aware of that.
You don't know. Okay.
Tania, your result is awaited for CAPF, right?
So no, sir. At that time it was awaited, but
Okay.
I've cleared it with All India rank 26.
Okay. So what are the various, challenges to internal security that India faces today?
So there are certain traditional as well as non-traditional challenges. Talking about traditional, we have insurgency in the northeast region, as also seen in the Manipur crisis recently. We also have Jammu Kashmir militancy, even though it has reduced, but it is there. Then we also have insurgency in the country in the form of Naxalism. That has also reduced, but it is a challenge still. And non-traditional challenges, for example, in cybersecurity, we have a challenge. Also, economically, it has been seen that predatory practices are being employed in the form of which does a damage to the country. For example, in electronics, we have imports coming from players which are not favorable to India, for example, China. So that also leads to cybersecurity concerns.
Okay. See, one act was in news, that is FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act.
Yes,
How is it related to securing the
So
security of India?
FCRA Act relates to how a particular NGO can have foreign contributions in it. It has been seen by MHA. It reported that there are around 20 lakh NGOs in the country, but their reporting is only 2%. So it was seen that those NGOs were working against the development of the country. There were protests that were being held, and they were also working for players which are not favorable to the country, and that is why this law was brought.
Okay. Okay, as we know, the conflict is going on in West Asia between Israel and Palestine. So what are the implications of this war for India's economy?
So there are wide-ranging implications. The major reason is that from this West Asia, we have large number of imports, oil imports that come, and also gas import. And also because India has around 70% of its trade through the sea region. As we can see that because of the attacks that are happening in the Red Sea, we are seeing an increase in the insurance for the ship-based shipments. Secondly, we are seeing that the prices are going up. Also, alternative routes around the Cape of Good Hope are being thought of, which would lead to an increase in the time at which the shipments would happen. So it can have an impact economically.
Okay, my last question. What solution do you suggest to the international community for the, so that we can stop this conflict in West Asia?
So I believe dialogue and diplomacy is the only solution there. And as India has said that two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict is the only way forward. Thank you, sir.
Tania, in your DAF you have mentioned that you like to play chess.
Yes, sir.
So in the game of chess, two terms are very popular. One is strategy and the another one is tactics. What is the difference between these two terms?
So strategy could be like when a person, it is a pre-planned notion that a person has, that they come to the gameplay with that particular strategy, that how they would employ their players. But tactics is when we are playing a game and looking at the counter moves that are being made by the opposition player, the changes that are being made could be related to tactics.
Okay. A very important and prominent strategy in the game of chess is Queen's Gambit.
Yes, sir.
What is Queen's Gambit?
So Queen's Gambit is an opening position and it is a relatively strong position. In it, the pawn is moved in such a manner that there is an opening that is there, and it gives a strong opening to the person who is playing.
So is this opening move available to either of the parties, black and white, or
No,
is it
sir.
specific to someone?
So this move is, I believe it is with black, but I have to check. Sorry.
Okay. Do we also have something called as King's Gambit?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So King's Gambit is a relatively weaker position because it exposes the king. However, the highest rated player, Magnus Carlsen, employs the King's Gambit a lot.
Okay. You are also a student of sociology.
Yes, sir.
Do you see any relation between family dynamics and investment behavior of people in India?
Yes, sir. There is a relation. For example, so family dynamics and investment behavior. So there is a relation in the manner that if there is a large family, for example, if it is a joint family, so there is a large pool of resources which would be invested in, and the risk-taking ability would be high because there is a kind of insurance that is there. But as we are seeing that joint families are declining or the households are declining according to the census, so that does impact the investment capacity.
Okay, great. Education is considered to be one of the most important component of human development. But at the same time, we also see certain examples where even best of the education fails to instill basic societal values in people. Why do you think this happens?
So I think it happens because it was also highlighted by the Nobel Prize winner Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo, that the education that we are imparting is more like a jugmug concept in which we teach the concepts and the people learn. So that is good in an academic manner, but from a value based, people do not have those capacities. So that is the reason.
So what course of action do you suggest?
So for that, I believe, as it was also highlighted in the National Education Policy, that we need to impart a value-based education, which means that the Indian traditions are filled with examples from, take example of Vedas or Mahabharata. They are filled with examples of passion, compassion for the poor, for the animals. So I believe those stories can be taught to children, and practical workshops could be there, serving in vridhashrams, for example.
Good. Tell us, what is moral policing?
So moral policing is when a person exhibits a certain rule-based order not based on any external agency enforcing law on them, but based on their personal moral concepts.
So, why moral policing is seen in a bad light? Don't you think it is a good idea to make people aware of their immoral conduct?
So, morality is a relative concept. Every person has a different morality. So, in that manner, it could be difficult to impose, because what might be moral for me might not be moral for someone else. For example, for me, I might think that eating vegetarian food is a moral thing according to whatever moral concepts I derive that from. But for someone else, that might not be so. So, in that manner, it can be.
Can you think of some universal moral values?
Yes, sir. So, truth, compassion, empathy, and so I can think of only these.
Okay. My final question to you. How has the institution of marriage evolved in the Indian society?
So, marriage is one of the social constructs of the Indian society, and marriage has been a historical concept in India. Even today, we see that marriage is seen as a sanction in the as an important concept of the society, because the same sex couples were also asking for marriage, because it gives a kind of social receptivity to the people.
So, do you agree with the Supreme Court's judgment on the same-sex marriage issue?
So, while the judgment was restrictive because it did not want to go into the legislative domain, but it did say that discrimination should not happen towards the same-sex couples. So, I believe going forward, a legislation should be drafted for it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Tania, tell me, what is the status of defense industrial corridor in UP?
So, the defense industrial corridor is in progress. There are certain notes that have been made in Kanpur infrastructure.
How many notes are there?
Maybe 6, but I have to read on it.
What is the rationale behind developing the corridor?
So, the reason is that previously we have a high import dependence. According to SIPRI, we are the largest importer of defense products. So, India wants to develop its manufacturing capacity, and for that, instead of working in silos, we want to have an integrated machinery in which we develop the defense industry. And because Uttar Pradesh has a large workforce, and also we have HAL and ordnance factory boards in the region, therefore, it gives an integrated approach to making defense equipments.
What is the system of land pooling in the corridor?
Sorry, sir, I have to.
You are not aware. Okay, it was nice interacting with you. The interview is over.
Thank you,
go
sir.
now.
Thank you. So, may I come in?
Come in. Sit down, Tania.
Thank you, sir.
When is your interview, Tania?
Sir, it's not in the first.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
So, which attempt is this for you?
So, third attempt, first interview.
Third attempt, first interview. So, how was your experience today with us?
So, I believe my answers were a little vague, and I have to work on my answer formulation. I was speaking too much.
I don't think you are speaking too much. You are speaking in your own natural flow. In your own, they have your own style of speaking. That is good. So, as far as your communication skill is concerned, it's excellent. We didn't find any flaw with your communication skill. So, be your natural self. That is what is important. And as far as the improvement element of improvement is concerned, it's always work in progress, isn't it? So, you can't reach a stage of perfection anywhere. But your interview, by and large, our experience is that you are going to get very good marks in the interview. Wonderful marks. If you have done really well in your mains examination, interview is not going to pull you down. Rather, it is going to pull you up.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
So, that is the overall this thing. With this, while I asked you to introduce yourself, why did you skip your selection in CAPF?
Sir, I forgot. It was just in the moment I forgot it.
It's not by design.
No, sir.
Okay, okay. So, keep in mind, because it's a success story as far as you are concerned. It is an achievement for you.
Yes, sir.
You must say that recently I have been selected, though I have not joined. You haven't joined, no?
No, sir.
I haven't joined. So, that then having said that, you have to be fully prepared to answer questions relating to CAPF. Different wings of CAPF. Your father was in BSF. Then other wings, CISF is there, CRPF is there, you know, ITBP and all that.
Yes, sir.
So, first question may be that Sima Sasastra Bal, What is the role of Simha Sastra? Which borders of India does it generally oversee and all that? So those questions we should be very clear. There should not be found faulting on those factual questions. And then the role of these, when we have a defense force, why there is a need for having a CAPF? So that kind of a question and all that. So, and related to policing and all that, internal policing also, there may be some problem issues, some questions also.
Okay.
Particularly you are from UP, that bulldozer justice and all that, how far do you think that this is correct and all? And then police reforms, a broader issue of police reforms. What are the recommendations of Prakash Singh committee and so on and so forth? What are the problems faced by the constabulary at the cutting edge level? What are the ways to reform Indian police, and what the government of the day has been doing, particularly with a special reference to digital initiatives taken by the state government and the central government both. That is one area which we can think of. Probably your interview will take you to. Another area is your subject only. Subject, I don't think you will have any problem dealing with the issues related to sociology. So, Indian sociologist theory you are fully aware. International sociologists also, like Durkheim and all that, you must be aware. Some questions are generally asked in today's context, is very important. What is the definition of enemy? I mean, the Indian context, correlated with the Indian context and all that. That is important. Third is, we are one of the few candidates who has opted for IFS as a first choice.
Yes,
Mostly I find that people have been, candidates have been opting for the IAS. That's a good thing. So, your passion, what do you want to contribute? That is what is important. What is the role, general role, you know what, and all the Indian diaspora is becoming a big issue of late. So, what are you going to, and you have read our Honorable External Affairs Minister's book also. Some questions related to that book may also be asked. Okay, what is the tone and tenor of that? Does it eulogize the present incumbent Prime Minister, or it is a third man perspective of the Indian foreign policy? Because whatever he has written in the book is with respect to foreign policy only, isn't it? And there he has tried to correlate with the ethics and essence of our ancient traditions also. So, traditions and modernity. So, such some questions related to that may be asked, because you have and then differences, ambassadors, what is the difference between an ambassador, you know, all those and the hierarchy, general hierarchy in the foreign service. Fourth, next area is your UP. Whatever UP is on the growth trajectory, so whatever initiatives have been taken by the government, particularly again the digital initiative, that is very important, be it corruption, be it innovation, be it infrastructure, or socio financial areas. So, inclusiveness particularly. So, how these programs have become inclusive programs, and some schemes may be asked and all that, Ujjwala scheme and all that, because recently you must have heard that 10th crore beneficiary was from UP only, and the first beneficiary was also from UP only, from which place and all that. That is another area where the questions may be asked. Then you are from Kanpur. Initiatives taken by the government and impact of the efforts made in Kanpur for cleaning Ganga under Namami Gange project. You should have because Magh Mela is happening in Kanpur, so it will be a very recent discussion. So, what all steps are being undertaken by the state government to deal with the Magh Mela? So, 2 boat services are also must have introduced. I was getting introduced from 22nd itself. One in river Saryu and another river Ganga. So, what is this service like? What purpose does it serve? Apart from that, the earlier Ganga Vilas project, you must have heard about Ganga Vilas project. Yes, why this project? It is a symbolic project and really going to give some benefit to the nation, and then its ecological problems and all that. Lastly, you are a woman candidate. Your definition of women empowerment, what are the constitutional guarantees given to the women, what are the constitutional, what are the acts dealing with the women protection area. So those 3-4 important acts, particularly with reference to Nirvaya Act, you must be fully aware of that. Then your definition of women empowerment, what does UN say about women empowerment, what is the constitutional guarantees, those things, and the initiatives and all that. If you cover these areas, and the last but not the least is your foreign policy, India's relationship with its neighbors, India's relationship in general, what are the strategies of India and all that. So that you should be fully familiar. 6, 7, 8 topics are there, very important. You must have gone through all that. But best part is you are a very honest person and your communication skill is very good. Make sure 2, 3, 4 things you must maintain when you go for the interview. First is your personal integrity. Honesty of purpose is very important because it's not a quiz competition. It is your personality test. So various aspects of your personality will be seen while asking questions, and the way you answering those, try to answer those questions. The first is integrity, as I mentioned. If you don't know, don't get into the area of guesswork. No surmises, no conjectures, absolutely no. So if you don't know, doesn't matter. If you know, go ahead, try to give very balanced answers, very crisp answers. Don't have to introduce the subject and all that, just come to the point. So it shows that this girl is able to grasp the problem, understand the intent of the question and answers accordingly. So that is the second thing. Third, take a very neutral view on anything, be it a collegium system, be it appointment of election commissioner or chief election commissioner. Give a very balanced view. Don't say that this is wrong or this is right. Nothing is right, nothing is wrong, and you are not a part of the government. So whatever information you have collected through the newspapers and other sources. So don't be committal that I find this is wrong. If you are pushed to the wall and if you are asked a question, no, it's a binary only, you have to tell me yes or no. Then only, sir, with my limited knowledge, I feel I don't have enough knowledge on this subject, but if I am asked to take a position, this is my position and this is the reason why I feel that. Okay. So that has to be done with a disclaimer, with a caveat that it is not my view, as because you are asking me to give my view, I am giving you my view, but based on these facts. So that will again speak of a lot about your volumes about your qualities of mind. So that the interview is all about that only. So you have sterling qualities of head and heart both. Just when you go for the interview, maintain your high energy level, keep smiling also. Smiling face is always good, with a positive body language. Okay. Body language should be positive, energy level should be high. Even if you don't answer 2-3 questions, don't let it go down, energy. And try to be interactive, try to look pleasant, try to look happy. And then you have done it. And you will get very good marks, we have no doubt in our mind. So going to be very high, I can tell you now itself. So all depends on how you have done. If you have done really well in your written examination, mains examination, you should definitely be there in the list of successful candidates. We have no doubt about that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, all the best to you. If you have any questions,
I had one question. So the question that sir asked on why I have put IPS as third choice, and if I want to go back and meet someone or tell them someone, was my answer appropriate?
I think so. It was appropriate.
You were linking your empathy.
Okay.
It was appropriate. No issues. Such type of questions may be asked. Unexpected questions may be asked. Why is always there? Why first choice IFS? I mean, it's like that. Why not first choice IPS and all that? We have already explained it in beautifully. No problem.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
Thank you.